The empowering effect of mature SBM practice on school heads has begun to rub off on the culture of obeisance, or undermine the culture of obeisance. Some officials of the central, regional, and division offices have decried the empowerment of school heads, citing their increasing in stubbornness and arrogance. Accordingly, principals have begun to answer authorities back. Read this as they are now expressing their positions on specific issues. The second set of policies is about national learning strategies, of which the mother tongue-based multilingual education policy is the most controversial. In the face of the strong advocacy for English as medium of instruction by no less than the Philippine President and representatives of Congress, this policy is noteworthy. By formulating it, DepEd has effectively taken over policy formulation in an area that it had hitherto left to politicians. Moreover, DepEd signaled its resolve to formulate evidence-based policies with direct bearing on the mission of developing functionally literate and critically thinking Filipinos. The adoption of the National Competency-Based Teacher Standards, which Alan actually talked about earlier, the Teacher Strengths and Needs Assessment, and the Individual Plan and Professional Development for Teachers aims to transform classroom learning by enjoining teachers to focus on learning in diverse contexts. The NCBTS is a marked change. It reflects a paradigm shift from teaching to learning, from the centrality of teachers to teachers as facilitators of learning. And one more policy cover, the release of SBM grants in support of activities that enhance learning and the drilling down of the MOE. Before this, the MOE was held by the division superintendent. And basically, it was not going to the schools. The schools did not even know how much money they had. So there were occasions when they would be given 100 dictionaries, they would not even need dictionaries. So now the policy at least is there. This is one of the hardest policies to actually implement because you're actually giving up prerogatives. I mean, this is a power thing. Okay. So there are also policies in support of the school's financial accountability for the MOE. What are BESRA's other achievements? There is evidence of general awareness about school-based management, with 80% or 90% of schools and school heads having been oriented to its practices. But it seems that SBM is not yet understood as a governance mechanism and as an effective means of integrating various inputs and innovations to enhance learning at the school level. Proof that it's not understood is the question, when will SBM end? Although SBM implementation is still uneven, DepEd has actually rolled SBM down to the regions. Of the schools that submitted data to DepEd last month, or that are known to have instituted SBM practices because their divisions were covered by foreign-assisted projects like SADIP, BEAM, TIP, STRIVE, which make up, these schools making up 60% of all schools in the country. 89% of the 60% of schools have 5-year school improvement plans and have begun to mobilize stakeholder support or organize school governing councils with representatives from various sectors in the community. The Quality Assurance and Accountability Framework, the tool and roadmap for quality assurance, has been finalized. It will be made operational through the quality management system that will be piloted in several regions soon. The QMS consists of quality planning system, standards and process improvement system, and monitoring and evaluation. Support to the implementation of a comprehensive SBM, one that integrates all of these inputs at the regional and division levels, is being enhanced in 4 divisions under the aegis of Project STRIVE through the pilot restructuring of the regional and division offices along functional lines. It's not along sectoral lines. Now it's sectoral, elementary, high school, secondary, and ALS. Along functional lines means taking care of community relations, governance and community relations, quality assurance and accountability, curriculum, learning strategies, learning content for formal schools as one, and ALS, rather than the sectoral lines that you have now. The piloting of learning resource centers in Project STRIVE. Project STRIVE is actually supportive of BESRA, are notable. Interestingly, DepEd has developed a learning resource portal that will be the repository of teaching and learning materials. Now, why the frustration? Despite significant strides in BESRA implementation, why the frustration among DepEd actors and stakeholders? When I talked about our belief in BESRA as an expression of hope based on some feasibility, I was coming from the experience of a relatively jaded UP academic, trained in the critical school to see beyond what appears and to unmask reality, who was serendipitously led by circumstances beyond her control to review the impact of a foreign-assisted project focusing on SBM in 2006. Having evaluated various development projects in the past, I was not prepared to be surprised and moved by the excitement of people on the ground. It was palpable in the meetings and conferences of superintendents, in the meetings of engineers with a mission to help construct principal-led schools, among the teachers and stakeholders in the schools visited, and in the vivid oral accounts of the technical assistants assigned to work with the divisions. This was the spirit of grassroots reform, I thought. There was a virtual movement there. To my mind, many of the schools did not seem to have problems integrating various reform components, classroom construction, preparation of learning materials, regular learning action cell meetings, and in-service training because they understood what it was all about. I can thus express hope because I have seen and felt the promise of a precursor of BESRA. Why my occasional frustration then? Because it seems that outside the divisions covered by projects like STRIVE, SEDIP, BEAM, and TIP, and the schools or local government units working with Synergia, Father Nebres Ateneo group that's working with the Quezon City Public School System, the PIBE, the Mentoring the Mentors program of the Foundation for People Power, BESRA has yet to generate such excitement on the ground. But my frustration does not fully count because it is occasional. And being a government employee, I have some understanding how difficult it is to move a bureaucracy, even our own departments and colleges in UP. How much more the biggest bureaucracy in the country employing more people than the Philippine military? Why the frustration among DepEd actors and stakeholders? For the DepEd actors who do not see the big picture, there are just too many demands on their time and disparate requirements to comply with, a point Dina will demonstrate in a while. For external stakeholders who bewail the continuing deterioration of education, DepEd's BESRA is not moving fast enough. It may also be seen as not tapping into the goodwill of NGOs and private sector groups who are actually offering to pitch in. For academics in particular, especially for those monitoring the country's commitment to meeting the MDG goals, and here I address our two national scientists in the audience, Dr. Castillo and Dr. Concepcion, whose project is to assess how far we are from our national commitment to universal education for all, narrowing the gap between actual outcomes and the 2015 target becomes increasingly difficult as the windows of opportunity narrows each day, with each passing day. Take the case of the participation rate in our elementary and secondary schools. Our participation rates have been increasing, but they seem to have reached a plateau somewhat, even if they're still increasing, thus widening the gap between the actual rates and the target. The closer we are to 2015, the more difficult for us to meet it. So I guess that's the reason for the UNESCO account. What have constrained the generation of excitement on the ground or the faster implementation of BESRA? At least 4 factors have contributed to the lack of excitement at all levels of the bureaucracy. First, even key players in the central office perceive BESRA as just another project, and therefore with a termination date, rather than a continuing reform movement that the department itself is passionately advocating and leading. Second, a broad understanding of BESRA and the links among the planning, governance, and role of stakeholders and resource mobilization components of SBM, for instance, and its roles in integrating diverse inputs to enhance learning and achieve performance outcomes at the school level is still low, even among those implementing the agenda. At all levels of DepEd, the BESRA components are treated in a compartmentalized way. Third, in contrast to the experience cited in the literature, and in the SBM-related foreign-assisted projects that DepEd has implemented, which document how a convergence of inputs within a given geographic area have not only produced has not only produced the desired outcomes, but has also heralded winds of change that have brought palpable excitement to schools, communities, the priority areas of different BESRA components differ. So in a sense, you can't really create this excitement. In this regard, focusing on clusters of regions in rapid succession until you reach all the regions in the country, thereby achieving convergence of inputs, might hasten the pace of BESRA implementation.